All right, I suppose there's a lot of y'all who aren't from small towns and never lived in a small town. But in a small town like, say, Chapel, Nebraska, for example, if somebody gets arrested for something, they put it on the radio. It don't matter if you're guilty or not, it's going on the radio. And people have been ruined by reputations that are undeserved as a result of it. Now, we also have the issue of a lot of the crimes around here are committed by drunken fathers raping their daughters. And they can't say nothing. They're afraid that it'll be on the radio, especially if it's the only daughter. Because it really fucks with somebody's head when they hear on the radio that their dad was arrested for incest. That is an actual charge. Those things are actually done. In a small town, most of those girls would just rather not deal with it. You already know from the other people in town who have gone through it that you'll probably get locked up if you tell on your predator. Nebraska's real good about that, about covering for rapists and child molesters. Sometimes it's because the victim is afraid of retaliation. Most of the time, it's just they're afraid of what other people will think. As most of the friends who stabbed me in the back did so over what other people might think if they told the truth. They're afraid that other people might think less of them if they knew the truth. Well, none of us are perfect, are we? So we have a lot of sex offenders in the area. Many of them are unregistered. And really, what can you do to help somebody out in that situation? We've got many, many government agencies whose job it is to do something about that. But instead, most of these girls and boys as well, if they say something, they get a choice between staying with their predator or getting locked up. That just don't seem right. You're the one who was victimized. Your dad should not have done what he did, but you're getting locked up for it. That ain't right. Nebraska also has a lot of real special laws to prevent victims from being able to come forward when there's police involvement. You got to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to try to get something done. And when you're on your own, you're on your own. A lot of other people will tell you they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And, I have noticed that if you're a girl, they're a lot more likely to do it, and they're a lot more likely to do it quickly. If you're a guy being victimized and you need help, you may never get it. Ever. You might end up with the B team or the C team. A bunch of alcoholics and a bunch of people who are strung out on meth. A bunch of people who are just going to take advantage of you and then tell you need to man up. You steal from me and treat me like I am not a man. If you try to challenge my manhood, I don't care about my manhood. I'm a human being first and foremost. Now, a lot of these girls in small towns get molested, usually by their dad or their stepdad. Where are they supposed to go? There's no services in western Nebraska. The ones we do have are shit. They're not useful for most people, especially if you're a victim who's under the age of 19. If you're considered a minor in the state of Nebraska, in Nebraska it's till you're 19, not until you're 18, you have no rights, none whatsoever. I mean, you got them on paper, but in reality, people can do whatever they want to you. They can put whatever narrative they want to on it. Once you're in the system, which is what happens when you tell on your predator in Nebraska, you go into the system. You don't get to see your friends anymore. You're stuck, locked up because you did the right thing. Your predator is still out there. Could be doing it to someone else. But you are locked up and you are the victim, and it ain't right. He gets in no trouble for what he's done. And then you're given a choice eventually. Eventually, it gets to the point where you've been locked up long enough, and it depends on person to person. Some people can handle it for a day or two and then they break. Some people can handle it for years being in the system. It all depends on how strong they are. Mentally, I mean. But eventually, all of these people miss their loved ones. They miss their friends that they had in school. And they want to go back and see their friends. They want to see their teachers. They want to see, familiarity. Something other than basically being locked up in a cell with a bunch of other kids, fed medications in abundance. Oh, you would dare tell on your dad? Here's a lockup facility and some medications. Congratulations. Don't you love Nebraska? There's a lot of people just in this town who told me about their predators and their abusers. Everybody wants to tell the wallflower. The problem is when somebody is called mentally ill, nobody listens. I don't know what you're expecting me to do about it. I'm not willing to go killing people. I'm not. Cops won't listen to me. I'll go in with you. That's different. I can't do it here, though. Not with all the illegal crap that the cops pulled in this town. They abused their positions to prevent me from being able to go to my court dates. That's against the law. It's also against the Constitution, but who cares, right? There's a lot of people who don't like me, and that has actually come in handy a few times. When Selena Not Afraid disappeared, people were able to use my notoriety, I suppose you could call it, to try to bring some attention to the situation. There's got to be a way to change things. I don't have a whole bunch of money. I can't hire a $10,000 retainer for a lawyer or even a $2,000 retainer. So, I mean, what are my options? Tell the truth wherever I can, whenever I can. Do my best to make sure everything is documented. Here's the thing about helping a person out who's been abused at home. When you help them out and they end up locked up, it hurts them. And because you're the friend who helped them when they're released back out, depending on when they break, of course, When they're released back into the custody of their abusers, that friend who helped them out is not allowed to be their friend anymore. They're a troublemaker. I've seen this a lot. You're not allowed to talk to that person anymore. You're not allowed to see that person anymore. So the boys and the girls both learn this. The girls learn that they got to be sneaky about everything a lot more than a boy does. And they have to manipulate a lot more than a boy does. They also learn that they can get away with hitting boys, but a boy can't defend himself. That comes in handy when you want to break a man down in public. And I've seen that too. And then men are taught that they need to be controlling and domineering and physical. Well, that ain't right either. Personally, growing up, I'd rather get hit a few times than have to deal with my mother's head games. That would have been nice. Of course, I got hit anyway, so why did it matter? So I'm in a small town of about 500 people, Chapel, Nebraska. And there are a lot of predators still here. There's a lot of the girls I went to high school with. They're in their late 30s and early 40s now. A lot of them, I know who their predators are still to this day because they wanted to tell me. They hope that somebody would do something, otherwise, you don't speak. When you have support, something might be done. When you're trying to turn in your dad and your mom has 100% on your side going on at all points in time, like, yeah, you're going to do well, and that SOB might end up in prison. But when your mom is an alcoholic, or she's addicted to heroin or methamphetamines, or she's in love with him, you're in a different boat altogether. In that case, your predator gets to do whatever he wants to you. Then when you try telling on him, he gets all afraid and he wants to butter up to you. It's called the honeymoon period. Oh, I'll never do that to you again. I'll never do that again. I'm going to church now. Oh God, you have no idea how many people picked up a Bible after doing something fucked up like that, and then they do it again. That's the most messed up part. The honeymoon period eventually ends. It always ends, and then he does it again. What are you going to do when he does it again and again and again? What are you going to do when it results in somebody ending up dead? Which happens often. Are you going to go after the person who did it, or are you going to hate on all men? Are you going to pretend that all men are that way? Here in the United States, we're taught to be that way. We get told to do one thing and then shown another. Kind of like when that girl on the playground, she gets pushed by the boy or hit by the boy or whatever, and she goes and tells her mom and dad, and they say, well, he's just doing that because he likes you. No, he's not. He's doing it because he's a little fucking prick. Now, instead of making your daughter feel like it's her fault or like that's what love is, you should have gone over and talked to that little boy's parents and said, hey, this dude is hitting people on the playground. This is not okay. And there's a lot of girls out there that say, oh, I don't need no protection. No, we all need protection, even guys. So don't try pulling that sexist crap on me. This is the United States of America. We, the people. We. It's not just one person who lives here. We all do have to depend on each other. We have to depend on the people who work at the supermarket. We got to depend on the people who work at the mercantile or the farm and ranch store. You got to worry about those people too. Because if they weren't there, who would you go to? Would you make those fence posts yourself? Do you have any idea where to even get started on making barbed wire? How many windmills have you built in your lifetime? Where are you going to get the parts? So there's a lot of people right now, especially people at the bottom. I see them. They're broke. They're going through Hades. The cops are being as dishonest as they can possibly be, and they're doing it to poor people. Gabby Petito is a pretty white girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. So she does get a lot of attention. Just because she gets that attention does not mean that she was not a victim. She absolutely was. But at the same time, you can see where the other victims are coming from. The other people with family that are missing. Families that are not pretty, blonde haired, blue eyed white girls. And these folks, they've got family that cares, family that helps. That's important. When somebody has to go to court by themselves, they're a lot more likely to be incarcerated, whether they did it or not. It's easy to railroad somebody when there's no witnesses who care. Those other people that are in there for court don't give two shits about your court date, they care about theirs. They're zoning out, they're not listening to you, they don't care. Even if they did, they're going to forget it in 20 minutes because they're up next on the docket. You need someone who's going to be there and bear witness. And I've gotten a few people to go with me to bear witness, but more often than not, if somebody showed up with me, they postponed my court date again and again and again and again and again until it was no longer possible to get much of the evidence that was required for an honest court date. If you're going to look at the evidence, look at all of the evidence. If you're going to condemn me for what I did to defend myself, maybe you should look at what I was having to defend myself against. Here in this town, I'll never be popular. I do not like the KKK. This town and the next town over, Lodgepole, are, well, pretty infamous for the KKK. So there is that, at least regionally. They've also been on the news because the attic at the county prosecutor's office had Nebraska's largest collection of KKK memorabilia. So put that into perspective. And then we got all these child molesters. All of these sick old farts that, because they have nothing better to do, they get drunk and have sex with their own daughters. And we got a whole bunch of teachers all over America getting busted having sex with students, and a lot of them are women. So I don't want anybody thinking that boys don't get victimized either. They do. And instead of, when they bring up what they've had to gone through, instead of saying, "Oh well, girls have to deal with this more than boys," you know what? not helpful, not useful, and you don't like it when people do that to you. The victims need to work together to stop the problem, not quarrel over who is more victimized. If you've got a rapist who rapes 3 people, and those 3 people are busy arguing with each other over who is more victimized, that predator is getting away. Opportunity to do it to someone else. And that's not okay.